Hi, everybody. Dr. Laura Dabney. We are talking this three-part video series about bratty behavior. We all want to indulge our children over this holiday season, but we're so afraid, rightfully so, of bratty behavior. So what do we do? Well, we talked for the last two videos about other ways to think about it, some specific ways of dealing with it. In this video, I want to talk about a couple of case studies of how I worked with some parents to help eliminate spoiled brat behavior. So let's face it, there are times that indulging our children is the right thing and a good thing to do. When they're sick or particularly having a difficult time, it can be very helpful to just give in and give them everything we can to get them back on their feet. But as I'm sure you are aware, or at least heard of, there are some times where we indulge, and the behavior just gets worse. They don't get better. They don't seem to thrive from it. What to do? Well, these two sets of parents came in with just that problem. In the first case, I want to talk about parents who came to me with a son who was in college. He had been in college for a couple of years and would come home. His college wasn't that far. On his visits home, he would get increasingly more demanding. He would be somewhat horrified and upset if they didn't have a plan, family events for every moment of the day. So he then started making a schedule for his parents, him, and his two younger sisters to do everything, what to eat, what to do, tennis, playing bocce ball, going down and going for a walk on the beach. It was quite taxing. And they thought, okay, we're going to do this and make him happy. Well, I had to help them understand that this was not working. They knew it wasn't working, and we talked about why. His behavior not only became more active and more frenetic, he actually started becoming verbally and physically violent. And that's when they put their foot down. So we had to help them see that this activity, this needing to do so much, was in fact a way to cover up feelings of grief. He was coming home and seeing his family intact, but without him. And that caused this conflict of feeling like he missed his family, but also kind of childish for feeling that way. He also was angry that his parents weren't in the parent role, right? They saw themselves giving into everything to him as good or helpful to him, but he saw it as them abdicating their role as a parent, the ones in charge. So he had some resentment and anger about that. Again, covering it up with all this activity. It was all with the family too, and they thought it was odd that he wasn't doing things with his friends, childhood friends, or other people home from college. So when I helped them realize those feelings were behind all this, we talked about how to resolve it. Well, first of all, we had to reset the expectations. They had to realize that, first of all, setting boundaries against his acting out behavior when it got to be the point so extreme when he was physically acting out, they knew that they had to do that. They did that by only, first of all, telling him he could no longer come home. That was very hard for them to do. They were very afraid to do that. But actually, as they set these boundaries, he started behaving better because they were taking the parent role. Second, they they started seeing him only in short spurts in public places. They did 15-minute coffees, then a little bit longer lunches, brunch, and then finally longer dinners out. They had an escape plan for each one of these in case he started becoming verbally violent. The message being, if you're verbally abusive or any kind of abusive, we're going to leave. They had to do it only a couple of times. His behavior got a lot better. He was pleasant, cooperative, was able to sit through a meal without a plan. And this boundary setting restored trust. They noticed that after a few months that he actually had a girlfriend for the first time. He was talking about all of his friends and the activities and planning events with them. And by the time they finished with me, they had restored the trust, and he was able to come home for a short family visit that went very well. So they were able to see that the indulging him wasn't working and took steps to change all that and fix the behavior. The second case was another couple parents that came to me with a young lady who was in high school but dropped out. She dropped out in it was her junior year because she was doing a summer program at a startup company, a tech company, and she was very talented tech-wise with computers. And they loved her work and offered her this position if she got her GED, and they would keep her on in this position. So she dropped out of school and started in this position. Her family was a little upset about this, but she had a job. She was never much of a student, so they thought, okay, well, they were okay with that. She, however, never left. The company went under. She made a lot of promises to get another job. She was supposedly in high demand, and she had all these interviews lined up, but somehow they never came to pass. By the time the parents saw me, she was a year at home, sitting in her room. They were doing literally everything for her, hoping that they saw her as depressed, and they thought they did everything for her that would make her less depressed and therefore more motivated to get something done. She was in her room watching video games most of the time. So I, first of all, had to help them see, as they could see, the indulgences weren't helping. In fact, they were causing her to be resentful that they weren't, again, taking the parent role. They were letting her walk all over them. And she missed them as being parents who made the rules in the household and wanted her to stick to them. They also, it was undermining her self-esteem. This doing everything for her gave their impression that she couldn't do it herself. And she thought, well, if I can't even do my own laundry, if they think I can't even do my own laundry or get myself together here, then how am I going to possibly have another job? So, given all that, we talked about ways to combat that by first stopping all the indulgences. It sounds easy, but these parents were terrified. They were so convinced that the indulgences were what was keeping her afloat that it was very scary for them to cut back on those. As we step back from that, I remember the first step back they did, which was to not buy her food at the grocery store. The mom would go grocery shopping and buy all of her favorite foods. She didn't buy the favorite foods. Mom was terrified. The daughter basically said, wait, you didn't buy any of my food. And mother said, that is correct. And kept unloading the groceries. The daughter's like, oh. 2 days later, the daughter said, I'm going to the grocery store to get the foods I like. The mom was floored. She was so happy. This is the first thing the daughter did for herself. That led to the daughter doing her own laundry and other events in the house, other chores in the household that the parents and she agreed upon. So in doing all this, the parents indulged to me that they had actually had a period where they broke up. This is a few years ago. They had broken up a few years prior to coming in to see me, and they surmised correctly, I believe, that the daughter was afraid if she left, that the parents would break up. They thought, and this is very common with children, they feel that the parents are staying together for the child. She was an only child, so she was also terrified on some level of leaving and having the family fall apart completely. So as they did less for her, they found that she was then joining them more. She started cooking her meals with them while they were cooking their meals. They would sit and actually eat with them and have these great discussions. And that helped build her confidence in the fact that they were a couple that wasn't going to break up, that they were a family. No matter what she did, they would still be a family. And they started celebrating these little wins that she had, which was going to a job interview, getting her car fixed, and then landing a job and going out on her own. So, two rather different examples of overindulging gone awry and how these parents dealt with that. In some, they realized they had to stop the overindulging. Whatever fantasy they had about overindulging wasn't working. Cutting back on the overindulgences, which helps these children's self-esteem. Setting boundaries, which helps cement themselves as the parent, and then celebrating the wins together, the child's wins together as a family, which again help the trust between them as a family that they're going to stay together despite the child separating and going out on their own. So, in short, I wish you all a very bratty, less holiday season. And I hope if you do experience any bratty behavior, you have a few more ideas of what's going on and how to deal with it. Happy holidays, everybody.